After spending 8 years in prison, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is set to be released on December 28th. She vividly recalls conspiring with her then-boyfriend, Nicholas "Nick" Godijon, to kill her mother Dee Dee, who had been subjecting her to unnecessary medical procedures. It was argued in court that Gypsy was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, a form of child abuse where a guardian feigns or induces illness for attention. Gypsy claims she was mentally and physically abused and forced into another unnecessary surgery at the time of the murder. Desperate to escape, she asked Godijon to carry out the killing in their shared home in Springfield, Missouri. In an interview with People magazine, Gypsy stated, "If I had another chance to redo everything, I don't know if I would go back to when I was a child and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and mommy makes me sick," admits Gypsy. Or if I would travel back to just the point of that conversation with Nick and tell him, "You know what, I'm going to go tell the police everything. I kind of struggle with that." She continues, "Nobody will ever hear me say, I'm glad she's dead, or I'm proud of what I did. I regret it every single day." During her childhood, Dee Dee falsely claimed that Gypsy suffered from multiple illnesses. This included muscular dystrophy, which led to Gypsy using a wheelchair, despite her being capable of walking. Dee Dee also subjected Gypsy to unnecessary feeding tubes and claimed she had leukemia, which led to Gypsy's head being shaved. Dee Dee successfully deceived friends, family, and doctors into believing these ailments were real. Gypsy herself was kept in the dark for years, stating, "Obviously I knew that I could walk and didn't need a feeding tube, but everything else was a really big confusion for me." She recalls her epilepsy diagnosis and how her mother would offer excuses whenever she questioned it, saying, "Whenever I'd question it, my mother would say I'd had a seizure the night before and didn't remember. There was always an excuse." Gypsy reveals that speaking up about Dee Dee's outrageous claims was something she had learned not to do. She recalls, "I would voice concerns, being like, 'I really don't feel like I need this,' and she would get really, really upset with me and start manipulating me." To ensure compliance, Dee Dee would use rewards, saying, "If you do well at the hospital, then we're going to Toys R Us to buy a new Barbie." Gypsy explains that her sheltered upbringing made things worse. She was never enrolled in school and had limited contact with her father, stepmother, and half-siblings. She reflects, "I was limited in what I could watch and the exposure I had to other kids. What I knew of the outside world was only in Disney movies, and those don't talk about warning signs of bad parents." However, as a teenager and young adult, Gypsy began rebelling, resulting in a violent turn in her relationship with her mother. She discloses, "I tried my best to be respectful, but sometimes it was hard. She'd call me things like B, H, WHOE, SLT. Gypsy further explains that the verbal abuse escalated to physical violence, with Dee Dee resorting to hitting, punching, slapping to exert control. Gypsy compares their relationship to that of a domestic violence dynamic, stating, "As long as you're complacent, everything's fine. Put your foot down, then it's bad." Gypsy reveals that her decision to have Dee Dee killed came about after she attempted to run away in an effort to escape yet another unnecessary medical procedure, this time on her larynx. She explains, "I just wasn't having it." Gypsy claims she fled her home but was tracked down and brought back within hours by Dee Dee. To solidify her control, Dee Dee filed paperwork declaring Gypsy as incompetent and asserting power of attorney over her. Feeling trapped and with no apparent options, Gypsy explains, "I was trying really hard to figure out another way." It was during this time that she had a conversation with her co-defendant, Nick, whom she had met through an online dating site. Gypsy recalls, he said, "I would do anything to protect you." I said, "Anything?" He replied, "Yes." Godijon was sentenced to life in prison for carrying out the deadly attack. Recent reports indicate that he expressed willingness to repeat his actions if it meant saving Gypsy. However, after years of reflection, personal growth and therapy. Gypsy now reflects, she didn't deserve that. She acknowledges, she was a sick woman, and unfortunately, I wasn't educated enough to see that. She deserves to be where I am, serving time for criminal behavior. In September, it was confirmed that Gypsy was granted parole, 2 years before her 10-year sentence for second-degree murder was due to expire. As she prepares to face the intense public scrutiny, Gypsy eagerly anticipates reuniting with her father and stepmother, who have remained supportive throughout her journey. Goddard John was sentenced to life in prison for carrying out the deadly attack. Also, she's eager to join husband Ryan Anderson, 37, a Louisiana teacher she married behind bars last year. We're in love, she says. Gypsy aims for her story to serve as a cautionary tale, stressing, I want to make sure that people in abusive relationships do not resort to murder. She emphasizes that even when it may seem like all options are closed off, there is always another way out. Gypsy firmly advises, do anything, but don't take this course of action. As the prospect of her freedom draws nearer, Gypsy shares that she is on the eve of happiness, although she still grapples with her past. Reflecting on her journey, she expresses, it's a journey. I'm still really trying to come to a place of forgiveness for her, for myself, and the situation. Gypsy acknowledges that she still loves her mother, and is starting to understand that her actions may have been beyond her control, comparing it to an impulse an addict may have. This realization aids her in coping and accepting what unfolded. If you suspect child abuse, please call the toll-free and confidential Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-4A-CHILD or 1-800-422-4453, or visit www.childhelp.org. The hotline is available 24/7 in over 170 languages.